A Florida teenager and an unthinkable story of survival after a shark attack when we come back.
Southwest Florida. This is Fox 4 News at 5.
I'm Fox 4's Elise Chingari here in Cape Coral, and today Fox 4 is taking a look at the ordinance that was passed on April 25th for food trucks. You know, this time, dinner time, this business would usually be packed with all of these benches, packed with people, with Millie's Dominican Kitchen, a food truck that once stood right here for 2 years. But ever since this ordinance on April 25th, well, that truck can no longer park in a particular area for more than 12 hours. That business owner tells us it's really affected business.
Now, when people drive by and they don't see us here, they're going to say, where did they go?
Manuela Guzman, the co-owner of Millie Dominican Kitchen, says they've actually had to purchase a truck to move the food truck, also had to find a storage area. It hasn't been easy.
Moving this huge thing, you know, hitching it up, towing it, storing it, and then having to do that process every single day. It's not, I don't know, but, you know, it's just my sister and I, and for us, it's a hard task, so I couldn't imagine for someone else.
So since this is a topic of discussion for Monday's meeting in the city of Fort Myers, my photographer Mike and I, well, we are heading to Fort Myers to see just how many food trucks are there and if these businesses will be affected. This food truck's owner here in Fort Myers says if Fort Myers passes an ordinance similar to Cape Coral's,
it'll be twice as difficult, to be honest. Will be really, really hard.
Then I got to chase them around and figure out where they're going to be at today or tomorrow. Yeah, they're not on Google Maps or anything, so it's going to be hard for me to find them, you know, good food.
Fox 4 will keep you updated on what happens next for food trucks here in the city of Fort Myers. In Fort Myers, Elise Chingari, Fox 4.
less than 24 hours after the unthinkable.
It was like right there, right in the white water. And the main part where it got stitches. Like if it bit down harder, that would have been like really, really bad.
13-year-old Ella Reed returned to her favorite place.
Kind of just feels the same every day, if not like every other day.
Reflecting on the moment when what she believed to be at least a 4-foot bull shark came after her.
We don't really like expect it, but we kind of thought eventually it was going to happen.
Ella and a friend were sitting in waist-deep water at Fort Pierce Inlet State Park Thursday afternoon when a shark interrupted their beach day.
It went under her and straight to me and got my stomach first. And I tried blocking it with my arm and my hand, and it kind of just slipped in and got my finger and my arm. And it like swooped around and got my leg again. It didn't really hurt in the first part because like all the adrenaline was just like, yeah, I don't know. We were so shocked. We didn't even know.
This brave girl
really scary.
Ran out of the water and headed home.
First, initially, I seriously thought it was a prank.
Once Ella's parents realized this was no prank, they brought her here to the St. Lucie County Fire Station just down the road, where she was rushed to the hospital.
Just kind of went in automatic fix it what the heck mode.
Mom Devin says they've lived in this North Hutchinson Island community for more than 20 years and never worried about a shark bite.
The whole thing's surreal, really. It sounds like a movie. It doesn't feel real.
She calls it a learning experience for their water-loving family.
Pretty scary stuff, but thankfully she's there and talking to you, and once you could see, okay, she's all right, then you kind of calm down a bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's kind of hard in the sand. Yes, definitely.
An experience that teaches respect for the ocean and all who call it home.
The amount of debt Americans have just hit a new record. Numbers out today from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York show that debt surpassed $17 trillion for the first time. That's up $148 billion from the end of last year. Mortgages, car loans, and student loans are some of the areas seeing the biggest increases. Today, the Supreme Court agreed to hear two prominent cases with big political implications. One case is a Biden administration appeal to limit lawsuits filed by members of Congress against the federal government. The case stems from disputes over a Washington, D.C. hotel, once partly owned by former President Trump. In the second case, the justices will review South Carolina's congressional map for discrimination against black voters. The CDC is out with a new warning today about Mpox, formerly called monkeypox. The agency says our country's outbreak isn't over, and we could see a resurgence this summer as people gather for festivals and other events. The CDC is already tracking a cluster of infections in Chicago.
The job market looks different now compared to this time last year, but students graduating from college are confident they'll get a job. New data from JobSite Monster shows 9 in 10 college grads think they'll find a job shortly after graduation, despite current economic conditions. That's a jump from last year's numbers. They also expect a higher starting salary and flexibility.
One thing to point out that's interesting is that majority of graduates from our report are saying, hey, we expect a high salary this year. But the reality is, just to bring the expectations down just a little bit, is that for entry-level salaries and overall, companies are not paying extremely high amounts. So grads should keep their expectations in check.
The latest government data shows unemployment numbers are the highest they've been since October of 2021. The majority of grads also think employers have the upper hand in today's job market, forcing them to change or broaden their job searches. But career experts say even with recent layoffs, companies want to hire young talent.
Right out of college looking for a job, you may have really sharp skills in terms of technology, social media, digital. Also, your internship relationships with your former boss, your college classmates, your professors, you have resources at your fingertips.
Overall, Monster says the challenge for both employers and graduates will be finding a balance between what companies can offer and what entry-level workers expect.
A new report from Sapien Labs, a neuroscience research nonprofit, looked at roughly 28,000 responses to their online mental health survey, and they looked from January to April of this year. Researchers looked at answers from 18 to 24-year-olds specifically. These are Gen Zers, the first generation to grow up with a smartphone, and we are talking about a cell phone with an internet connection. Researchers looked at someone's age when they got their first smartphone to see if it impacted parts of mental well-being, things like social engagement, self-esteem, and suicidal thoughts. The major takeaway, overall mental well-being scores were consistently higher when smartphone ownership began at an older age, both for females and for males. Now, one key finding, 46% of females experiencing mental health challenges received their first smartphone at the age of 18. 74% of females experiencing mental health challenges got their first smartphone at the age of 6. 36% of males reported experiencing mental health challenges got their first smartphone at the age of 18, compared to 42% who got their first smartphone at the age of 6. Suicidal thoughts, feelings of aggression towards others, a sense of being detached from reality, or even hallucinations were some of the most dramatic in females who got their phones at a younger age. Researcher Tara Thiagrajan says that this relates to the greatest impact they saw, something she calls a person's social self.
This is, encompasses all of the factors that, determine how you see yourself and your ability to interact positively and with other people, form relationships, maintain relationships, and so on.
Now, this may sound very alarming for people watching who maybe you have a young child you've already given a smartphone to, or maybe you yourselves are someone who is a Gen Zer and has grown up with a smartphone from a very young age. Now, some important context when we are talking about this research. It has not been reviewed by scientific peers like a big study you might see published in one of the major medical journals. That's because Sapien Labs has instead wanted to release this data on their own as quick as possible to give a current snapshot of what things are like right now. There are additional studies on cell phone age and mental health, and at this point we don't have a really clear-cut answer to what age is too young or just right to start using a smartphone. So right now, the way that the data is collected in these different research studies, it's often an apples to oranges situation. For example, you have this study we are talking about that's just coming out today. It had young adults self-reporting. It was a large group of people from dozens of different countries. We're talking thousands of responses. Now, that research, compare that to something that came out this past November from Stanford Medicine. That followed a small group of 250 students for 5 years and did not find a connection between the age a kid got their first cell phone and their sleep patterns or depression symptoms or grades. So what this all means is that more research is needed. So if you are watching this and you still want to help yourself, want to help a friend or family member, psychology experts say regardless of age, it is not just about limiting the time you are on one of these, but what someone is doing during that phone-free time. And they really suggest engaging, conversing, interacting, something face-to-face in real life with other people. Lindsay Thies, Scripps News, San Francisco.
AAA predicts more people will travel this Memorial Day weekend than in 2019. The Automotive Trip Planning Group expects more than 42 million people to travel 50 miles or more. That's a 7% increase from last year and a sign of what's ahead this summer travel season. Vehicles are on the road much longer these days as drivers fix their cars rather than replace them. Data from S&P Global Mobility shows the average age of a passenger vehicle is a record 12 and a half years. Drivers are holding off on purchases due to higher prices and loan rates. Today, Vice Media filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy ahead of a planned sale. The company previously announced major restructuring that will result in dozens of job cuts. The sale process should wrap up in 2 to 3 months.
We've heard a lot about OpenAI's ChatGPT. It's an artificial intelligence chatbot that launched toward the end of last year. Well, hackers are taking advantage of that popularity and targeting you. Right now, ChatGPT is an online-based tool, but scammers are developing fake apps hoping you will download malware to your phone. Cybercrime Support Network's Ali Armisen says there are so many hackers out there that big tech security systems are struggling to flag them all.
Everyone wants to be on ChatGPT and during those peak hours, and we can't. So we're sitting there kind of waiting, a little annoyed, and then we'll see an ad on Facebook pop up that says, OpenAI's ChatGPT is now an app. Click here. And instead of try ChatGPT, you see download. So click on that download and the installation process will start, and it will either fail, have an error message, or just pause. What's really happening is in the background, malware is being downloaded onto your computer.
To make sure an app isn't a scam, there are several things to pay attention to. First, look at the developer. In this case, it should be OpenAI. Then look at the logo. If it's blurry or the color is off, that's a warning sign. Armisen says you should also check out what other people are saying about it.
Look at reviews, right? There should be, you've seen reviews for an app, even if it's a beloved app and everybody loves it, you'll see kind of a mix of 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, and then maybe the occasional 2 or 1, right? There should be a mix, and there should be a lot of them, especially for something like OpenAI. And then also look at the comments. Sometimes you'll see people will say, this isn't the right app, this is a scam, don't click on it.
When in doubt, go to the OpenAI website. Armisen says it will be announced when the official ChatGPT app is available.
And we're going to go to northern Nevada, right along the state line with California. This is northwest of Reno. A very close call for any drivers on Highway 395 there. And it is a very remote area, but state troopers catching a wrong-way driver after taking several calls. You can see this. Now, this is a slowed-down version of this. Unfortunately, no major crashes from the Highway Patrol. They're ordering the driver to stop the car and turn around. Troopers believe the driver was drunk, but another reason for all of us to pay attention when we're out there driving, not just for us, but for the other driver, especially one like that. Now to Hawaii. Aloha means goodbye, and it was almost an aloha for this angler. Oof. Scott Haraguchi was fishing on his kayak in shallow water. He had his GoPro on because he had just gotten a fish and forgot to turn it off. And yeah, that's when this happened. He was able to kick the shark away, even kept fishing. If they still have America's funniest videos, he should make the $500 for this.
And welcome back to Fox 4 News at 5. We continue to closely monitor what is now a 120-acre fire that is burning in southern Sarasota County. This is something you can see from I-75. It's something you can also see from radar. But bottom line, according to the Florida Forest Service, the Myakka District, who is currently responding to this fire, this is burning just to the east of I-75. So right now, we are closely monitoring this smoke. If you're in Northport, Tarpon Point in Charlotte County, down to El Jabin, Murdoch, you are likely seeing smoke again from this 120-acre fire. It is now 50% contained, and right now no homes are threatened. This is currently burning in Orange Hammock Wildlife Preserve, so we are monitoring that very closely, again just to the east of I-75. And as we zoom in right there, you see a lot of lush green vegetation, and you can imagine, considering just how dry it's been, that there is a lot of fuel for that fire to continue to burn. Of course, we'll continue to keep you updated. Again, right now 50% containment. We're also closely monitoring just how dry it feels outside. Look at these humidities. Anytime you see a humidity less than 35%, that is critical for our fire risk. So less than 35%, that's bad. for that fire to potentially spread. But on the plus side, those winds are nice and light. Notice up here, Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, reporting light winds at just 5 miles per hour. And we are expecting the winds to stay manageable overnight tonight, heading into tomorrow morning, just 5 to 10 miles per hour. Now tomorrow afternoon, those winds will start to pick up out of the west. At times we could see some gusts up to 20 miles per hour, but otherwise those winds expected to stay fairly light between now and at least through lunchtime tomorrow. So we can see the smoke on radar there in southern Sarasota County. We're also monitoring some storms here right along Alligator Alley. So if you are traveling along the alley, just be ready. You're likely going to be dealing with some slowdowns right here from this thunderstorm that is also centered over southern Hendry. Another little storm right now over Harker. So Harker, if you are outside, you can hear that thunder roar. You want to make sure you head indoors. Overnight tonight, quiet conditions are expected. We'll kick off your Tuesday morning. Lots of sunshine. But heading into tomorrow afternoon, stay weather aware. Scattered showers and storms will be developing, especially in our inland communities later in the day. But for tonight, partly cloudy, dropping down to 72 degrees. Staying hot for tomorrow afternoon, up to 92, and then will be mainly dry later on this week.
Over the last several years, the number of cases of children with autism has increased significantly. And with that increase, parents and experts say needs to come more awareness and inclusion. We found a project that's going nationwide to do just that. In the hustle and bustle of taking the train, you just might miss it. But listen carefully, and it's hard not to smile.
Hi, my name is Emmanuel. Please help us to keep Marta clean. Please don't litter. Hope you'll enjoy your ride.
If you know one thing about 7-year-old Emmanuel Stevens, it's that he loves trains.
What I like about trains is that it goes fast, it goes under the tunnels, it goes through the city, we get to see the city, the conductor drives the train, and I think that's it.
Emmanuel has autism, and for many kids like him, trains and other very complex engineering systems are much more than mundane.
Welcome to Florida, enjoy your trip.
They're a playground for learning and interacting. And now, Emmanuel is even more excited about his favorite spot because he and other kids and young adults with autism recorded announcements for the passengers.
Hey, my name's Devin, and I love trains. Help us keep my tire green.
These announcements are part of a nationwide effort called the Autism Transit Project. They're playing on MARTA here in Atlanta, in the subways of New York, and in trains in San Francisco, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C.
For your safety, when traveling with a bicycle, scooter, stroller, or heavy luggage, avoid using the escalators.
Every announcement is to make sure the voices of those with autism are heard and included.
Oftentimes, kids with autism, no matter what level on the spectrum they're on, are excluded and misunderstood, including Emmanuel. But this project has afforded a number of individuals throughout the country an opportunity to show I am unique, I'm special, I'm versatile, I'm capable.
The project was started by Jonathan Trichter, who says it's just one step toward the larger goal
to incorporate neurodiverse individuals into civic society and allow them to experience and participate in the human experience at a fuller level. It's important because just 10 or 15 years ago, we were warehousing a lot of these children as opposed to educating them.
Trichter hopes more awareness will create more opportunities and jobs for those with autism, and it already has for Travail Sinclair, who is now interning with MARTA.
No, you could work here too.
I am.
Travail had his own announcement in the project too.
I love it. The people here are absolutely wonderful. They have supported me very well in teaching me how the system works. And above all, it's just really good for someone like me with autism that needs a lot more of that guidance.
Guidance that isn't always given from society, but to those living with autism, it's what makes both families and kids know they're part of the community.
And to have my son do announcements here is just, and the wonderful other children and young adults that are on the announcement, it warms my heart. Yes.
I bet it
does. It does.
And if you hadn't noticed already, Emmanuel is proving the project works. He's feeling and seeing acceptance all around him.
Oh, you got some applause? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It just feels like it's a party.
And we all can join in on Emmanuel's party by making time to notice the little things.
Hope you enjoy your ride.
That aren't so little at all.
See you guys. Bye.
Alexa Liaco, Scripps News, Atlanta.
Still ahead on Fox 4 News at 6, we are following the breaking news out of southern Sarasota County, Northport, where a fire is burning. It was much more dramatic 2 hours ago, but so far from the Florida Forest Service, half contained 120 acres. See, it's
We don't know what the future holds.
That uncertainty, some Fort Myers Beach business owners say, is driving them to look for new options. Tonight, we have the numbers about how many businesses are expected to come back. And new to start this hour, Fox 4 Investigates has obtained a Cape Coral report, the results of a months-long major dispute between city leaders and fired city manager. What this says about allegations of racism and homophobia right now at 6.
Live from Fox 4, this is breaking news.
In the breaking news right off the top here at 6 p.m., this fire from Sarasota County was much more dramatic 2 hours ago. I've been watching it very closely. Thank you for joining us here for Fox 4 News at 6. I'm Chris Earl. And we could earlier see black smoke coming out of this spot. This is Northport. It's very extreme southern Sarasota County. This is I-75 for anyone looking southbound between the Toledo Blade exit and also Kings Highway. It's burning near the Orange Hammock Wildlife Management Area. And for anyone on 75, you've been able to see this for the last couple of hours. So bring in Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls, because yes, the fire is still burning. Now, Florida Forest Service confirms to us 120 acres, half contained. The question now is wind, and will the wind go in a certain direction to kind of help blow the fire out?
Thankfully, at this point, we are starting to see those winds improve, and it's actually burning back on itself, according to the Florida Forest Service. So, of course, we continue to watch that closely, but you can see it right here, burning just to the east of I-75. But if you're in Northport, Murdoch, El Jobin, you very well could be seeing some of that smoke right now. We are certainly no longer seeing the big billowing black smoke that we were at the top of Fox 4 News at 5, but still, if you are traveling along 75 heading up to Sarasota County, maybe from Northport down to Port Charlotte, you are certainly seeing some of that smoke out there right now. But again, those winds are staying on the light side, and of course that is a big concern of ours here in the Fox 4 Weather Center. But there you go, you can see that flow picking up out of the northeast, kind of driving that smoke off toward the south and west. So that's what our radar is picking up right here. But as we head down to Collier County, as well as parts of Hendry, that's where we're also monitoring some thunderstorms. So right here along Alligator Alley into southern Hendry County, dealing with some downpours there. Tomorrow, though, more of us will be up against that potential, and coming up in the next 10 to 15 minutes, we'll take a closer look at the timing for when your neighborhood could pick up some much needed rainfall.
Thank you, Katie. An independent investigation from a law firm the city of Cape Coral hired found many of the allegations from fired Cape Coral city manager Rob Hernandez to be unsubstantiated. The city fired Hernandez in February. He accused the city council and mayor of racist and homophobic conduct. Fox 4 Investigates Ryan Kruger joins us in studio with the latest details coming out of that investigation. Ryan.
Yeah, Chris, Rob Hernandez alleged that he was fired as the city manager of Cape Coral because he claims he spoke out against what he called discriminatory views of certain city leaders. But in a 31-page report released this afternoon from that independent law firm, it found almost all of those claims to be unsubstantiated. Hernandez was fired on February 15th. And one day before, his lawyer sent a letter to the city attorney alleging, among other things, that Cape Coral Mayor John Gunter wanted to remove a lesbian employee from having any contact with the public. He also accused another council member of wanting certain rules of decorum to apply to Cape Pride, and also alleged that some council members took exception to the hiring of an African-American woman in a leadership position. Cape City leaders hired an outside law firm to look into Hernandez's allegations. The report found all of those allegations I just mentioned to be unsubstantiated. The report says Hernandez was instead terminated for, quote, legitimate, non-discriminatory reasons. I did reach out to Hernandez's lawyers. I have not heard back. If we do get a response from them, we will put it up on fox4now.com. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.
The future is just a little uncertain down there.
Tonight, the Fort Myers Beach restaurant La Ola is opening a second location at the Bell Tower Shopping Mall in the shopping center in Fort Myers, calling it a safety net against future storms. This comes as so many other destroyed beach businesses like the Zanzibar Greek restaurant are now looking to move to a downtown location. The Zanzibar was in front of the Lani Kai there at Fort Myers Beach. Fox 4's Colton Chavez live for us in Times Square at Fort Myers Beach. And Colton, what do moves like this also mean for the outlook and really for the business environment there on the island?
Chris, that's exactly what I think everybody who's down here on the beach today, that's what they're wondering. Now, if you remember in my report from back in December, the Fort Myers Beach Commission, they were saying that they expected about half of the businesses that were here before Hurricane Ian to return to the beach. Well, some good news tonight, Chris. We're learning that more than half of those businesses are now set to return. But for businesses like you said, Chris, like La Ola just behind me here, they say that they can't just depend on their beachside location moving forward.
With everything going on the beach, we're more in a temporary situation down there where we don't know what the future holds.
Of the 60 restaurants that called Fort Myers Beach home before Hurricane Ian, La Ola is just one of the 18 the Fort Myers Beach Chamber of Commerce says have returned since the storm.
We're operating out of some shipping containers on trailers and a food trailer down there, as you know. So it'll be nice to have a brick and mortar here to fall back on.
A safety net La Ola owner Tom Houghton said he was able to cast by opening a second location at the Bell Tower shopping mall in Fort Myers. 7 months after Ian, of the 18 restaurants that have returned, half of them, like La Ola, Chamber's executive director Jackie Lizak says, are operating on the beach out of food trucks or shipping containers. Houghton says that's creating vulnerabilities his second location can help alleviate.
It sure feels good to be able to have, a location that isn't so vulnerable and at risk. I got to be able to think of my staff and make sure that I can provide constant employment for them.
Gearing up for their Bell Tower soft opening, Houghton says his 2 locations overall will increase his staff by 50% compared to what it was before Ian, creating for La Ola a more resilient workforce as the island community continues to build back as Southwest Florida approaches the start of another hurricane season.
There most definitely is going to be a whole lot of construction going on at some point. We're going to have to be able to work around that or maybe take a pause. Who knows? The future is just a little uncertain down there.
As a reminder, when we're talking about La Ola, they're not going to close down their Fort Myers location. They're simply opening up a second location. Now, for that soft opening at Bell Tower, that's set to happen sometime next week. We'll give you those updated details as soon as they are released from La Ola. But for now, live in Fort Myers Beach, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
Thank you, Colton. Also new information tonight on a shooting in Cape Coral, and police officers say there were children inside of the home when several bullets went all the way through a bedroom and into an adjoining apartment. Cape police say the call came early on May the 6th on Northeast 16th Place in the 400 block. Investigators say they found more than 10 bullet holes, some going through a sliding glass door and into the bedroom of the house. Police say their investigation led them to 34-year-old Angel Perez Jr. from Fort Myers. After his arrest, they also say they found a gun, drugs, $20,000 in cash, and the car reported nearby when the shooting happened. Perez now faces a number of charges, including attempted second-degree murder. We've learned the names of the 2 suspects now facing charges after a Northport shooting over the weekend. It happened near Cincinnati Street and Boca Chica Avenue. Police say gunfire hit one person and responders flew that person to a hospital, but that person is expected to survive. Police found 2 people involved just minutes after the shooting. And one of those people charged is 41-year-old William Walker of Dade City, arrested for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Police say the other person is 41-year-old Juliana Eichenlaub of Zephyr Hills, arrested for tampering with evidence. Officers say the person who did get shot, though, again, is recovering. A Cape Coral teenager charged in the robbery of a gun shop last year admitted to a judge that he was involved in the crime. Now, 15-year-old Felix Ayala and his brother, was 11 at the time, were charged with stealing more than 20 guns, along with ammunition and magazines from the Guns for Less store in Del Prado. This was last June. Ayala went to trial as an adult and originally put in a not guilty plea, but he changed that to guilty. A judge sentenced Ayala to 3 years of community control and 3 years probation. A late-night crash with an SUV and a semi-truck ends in flames on Alico Road. Both drivers were able to make it out alive. Take a look. Florida Highway Patrol says despite this really dramatic scene that would make anyone driving by look and think about driving safely, both drivers only had minor injuries. Troopers say the SUV was going east on Alico, went to change lanes and then crashed with a semi. FHP arresting a Fort Myers man for driving under the influence. Southwest Florida's affordable housing options can be very difficult to find. On Fort Myers Beach, even more so. Coming up, how much the prices are and a program up for consideration that could make it more affordable for some. Plus, it is now illegal illegal for teenagers in Florida to drive golf carts. A look closer at what the new law says after the break. Katie.
We continue to closely monitor smoke here in southern Sarasota County. We'll have the latest on this wildfire. Plus, I'm tracking storms on our radar and where more could be developing tomorrow.
Crews in Jacksonville removed a 125-year-old Confederate monument from outside of City Hall. This follows the statue's 2020 removal, but the rest of the monument got taken down this weekend. Also, Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a new law preventing equity, diversity, and inclusive program funding at Florida public schools. The governor says his programs distract from the core mission of higher education. The new law not only defunds these programs, but also bans colleges from spending state or federal money on them. The law puts restrictions on what material state universities can teach and how they give those lessons. On the same day as Mother's Day yesterday, mothers from the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting said that they feel the group One Pulse Foundation's planned memorial might be monetizing their anguish and their grief. And from this news conference, some family members say that they were promised a memorial to get built to honor friends and family, but 7 years later, there's still not one there. A shooter killed 49 people at the Orlando nightclub that night in 2016. Under a bill Governor DeSantis also just signed into law, Florida teenagers will not be able to drive golf carts without proper ID. Brenna Nespral from our Scripps station WPTV in West Palm Beach went to Martin County, where people say they've already taken strides to try to make golf carts safer for all on the roads.
With this new law, there's basically no difference between driving a golf cart and driving a car. You need all the same safety features like your turning signals and a rearview mirror. But now you also need either a driver's license or a learner's permit.
I think it's great. We all think it's great in the neighborhood. I mean, truly.
Linda Harima talking about the River Point neighborhood in Martin County. Driving down the street, you'll likely see many families driving their own buggies around.
Being able to take the golf cart to dinner, take the golf cart to the boat dock,
that's really one of the biggest benefits of it.
For McLean Boyd,
It's just a really nice lifestyle choice for us.
it works for his family of 4. But now Governor Ron DeSantis signed House Bill 949, sponsored by Vero Beach State Senator Aaron Graw.
Anyone who is under 18 years of age, unless he or she possesses a valid learner's driver's license or valid driver's license, may not operate.
It's something the Martin County Sheriff's Office is excited about.
Yeah, I think it's a good bill.
Within the past year, Sheriff Will Snyder says Martin County stepped up enforcement and changed their laws, only permitting golf carts on roads with a maximum speed of 35 miles per hour, and required all golf carts to have everything a car needs: registration, license plate, headlights, just to name a few.
Because we're getting a multitude of complaints. We were seeing some accidents. We did see juveniles doing it. Of course, they present an even greater risk than adults because they don't have the experience.
According to a study released by the American Academy of Pediatrics, more than 6,500 children are hurt in golf cart-related accidents each year.
Oh, they go fast, on the roads, and you worry about them. They push you out of the way. I mean, they wouldn't stop for you, so you'd have to jump over with the dog on a long leash or whatever and move quickly.
The law goes into effect on July 1st. Drivers could face a non-criminal traffic violation, like a moving violation.
The ultimate, though, is still for people to obey the law and not wait for law enforcement to come by and have to write tickets. People know what the law is now. Just obey the law.
Florida Fish and Wildlife helped deputies in Lee County with an emergency rescue of a manatee off of Pine Island over the weekend. FWC says, along with deputies, they saved the unresponsive manatee spotted off of Pine Island. The crews were able to take the manatee to SeaWorld in Orlando for proper treatment. Also, a Florida researcher just broke the world record on Saturday for the longest time living underwater. We followed this back on Friday. Dr. Joseph Deturi has spent the last 74 days in a Key Largo undersea lodge. His goal is to conduct medical and aquatic research and educational outreach with students at USF. Deturi says he plans to stay underwater for a bit longer, though, until June 9th. That would be 100 days. Also taking another live look from Northport. This is one of the FDOT cameras off of I-75, the Orange Hammock Wildlife Management Area. And what you're seeing here is east of the interstate. It's between the Kings Highway exit and the Toledo Blade exit. About 2 hours ago, you couldn't miss it if you were driving up and down I-75 on this stretch. There was thick black smoke covering the screen, apparent to anyone going past. Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls here trying to find out more on this. And again, we're all watching the wind to see what the impact is going to be here.
And thankfully, those winds have lightened up. Also, they have shifted a bit, so it's actually back burning on itself. So that's a good thing. It's helping to put itself out. We're definitely seeing improvements, no longer seeing those significantly reduced areas of visibility. Big improvement there, but also 50% containment. That, of course, a 120-acre burn that we continue to watch, and it's so large that we can even see it right here on our radar. So if you are in Northport, Murdoch, back toward El Jobin, earlier you were likely seeing that smoke overhead, but now starting to see those big improvements, which really tell us that the Florida Forest Service has certainly started to get a better handle on this fire. Now let's turn our attention to a live look outside across the Caloosahatchee River from the Luminary Hotel in downtown Fort Myers. It's a beautiful evening to get outside. For the most part, conditions are on the dry side. So on radar, obviously we can see the remaining smoke right here in southern Sarasota County, but also right here across parts of southern Hendry into Collier County. We have been watching some thunderstorms right over Alligator Alley. So that's really been the focal point of that storm development for today. And over Harker, watching that little storm fizzle out over you, no longer producing any clouds or ground lightning. Well, it's officially the start of rainy season. Climatologically, it kicks off May 15th and runs through October 15th. And normally it is a transitional time. You won't necessarily be able to set your watch to it. Sometimes it arrives a week early, sometimes it arrives a week late. But there are 3 distinct phases to our rainy season here in Southwest Florida. So phase number 1, late May through June is when we have the stormiest time frame, when severe storms are most likely. So especially late May through June, that's when we need to make sure that each and every afternoon we stay weather aware. Phase 2, July through early September. That's when rainy season really peaks. That's when we pick up most of our wet weather here across Southwest Florida. Phase 3, mid-September to early October. That tends to be the wind down phase, but that's also the time frame when you can really see variability in how much rainfall you pick up, because of those tropical systems. Of course, that being peak hurricane season continuing into October, that's when we do tend to pick up rainfall from those tropical systems. So typically, based upon decades of data, we see most of our rainfall right here during the month of August, but even June, July, and September are very wet. For example, here in Fort Myers, we pick up at least 9 inches for any of those months. And let's be honest, we could really use that rainfall. Take a look at this. Going back to January 1st, Sarasota, we are in deficit by greater than 5.5 inches. Punta Gorda, we are down by more than 3 inches in the rain gauge. Meanwhile, look at that. Fort Myers, we are in deficit by 4 inches back to January 1st. Naples, we are down by more than half a foot of rain. So even though it might not be timely for those of us still dealing with roofing issues, we could certainly use that rainfall and, case in point, that wildfire that we continue to monitor closely. Overnight tonight, showers staying kind of spotty right here at 9 o'clock, but overnight's going to be dry. Tomorrow morning, we'll start things off lots of sunshine, temperatures in the low 70s. For your afternoon, showers and storms, they're going to be bubbling up, so have that rain gear close. Best probability for that wet weather. First, it'll start off right along 75, but once that westerly wind kicks in, that will help to force all of that energy farther inland. So right around 5 to 6 o'clock for the heart of the evening commute. That's when I'm expecting most of those showers and storms to generally be away from 75 into the east, especially for our inland communities. Overnight tonight, partly cloudy skies as we drop down to 72 degrees. Afternoon highs tomorrow, they're going to stay hot. We're adding up to 92, but it's going to be feeling more like 95 when you factor in that humidity. And as of right now, we're backing down those rain chances. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just 20% rain probability. Heading into next week, looks like those storm chances go back up for your Monday.
With a surge of migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border after the end of Title 42 last week, we are seeing more groups emerging to give people who are there basic needs. Sarah Barker takes us to one of those border camps about an hour east of San Diego.
Just a few miles down the road from this old gas station turned into a donation center for now are hundreds and hundreds of migrants on U.S. soil waiting to be processed and seek asylum.
10 de mayo se tomó una decisión, partir en busca de un sueño.
Hundreds of migrants keeping busy in Jacamba as they wait their turn to seek asylum.
Our country is in like a war and some criminal things, so we have to run for the dangers. And we just want some help.
This group of migrants from Colombia invited us into the shelter they've built made of wood and tarps.
Nothing we can do. Just wait for help and keep strong and pray for get better our life.
Border Patrol is keeping watch nearby. This migrant tells us the agents are taking them in to be processed based on wristbands they've been given. He says every migrant has a different journey. He says many of them learn different ways to get into the U.S. through word of mouth in their home country.
Everybody's come like different ways, you know. I fly Colombia from Mexico and Mexico here.
These migrants have turned their journey into a song.
Un coyote que los guiaba.
He's singing about crossing the border, chasing a dream, being guided by coyotes who told them it wouldn't be easy what they were going to face, then setting up camp, improvising, becoming a family, and now waiting on Border Patrol agents.
Esperando que muy pronto llegara la recogida.
And just a couple of miles west from this camp on Old Highway 80 are donations from the community and volunteers making trips to the migrant camp several times a day.
Been pretty difficult to watch, and so we could use some support from people that have, you know, these large funds. I mean, we're just doing this because we think that's what we should do. So we could use the support in every way.
They're in need of more donations and more help.
The most important things right now are shelter items from the sun, so things like tarps from the shade.
A Naples man accused of a serious role in the January 6th attacks at the U.S. Capitol, more than 2 years, now convicted. A look at the crimes and the punishment that's ahead. And also, this fire still a concern for anyone driving along I-75 through Northport. You can see it off in the distance, but this is at a nature area north of the interstate, but there's still hundreds of homes near Price Boulevard south of it. We'll have an update.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 6.
Thank you for keeping it here with Fox 4 News at 6. I'm Chris Earl, taking a look at the Bayfront Inn in Naples on this Monday. And relief might be coming, not necessarily Naples, but for people at Fort Myers Beach, still trying to rebuild after Hurricane Ian. Today, the town council approved new rules to allow temporary housing, mostly trailers and mobile homes for homeowners to use. One council member at Fort Myers Beach said he's already heard from people trying to convert a mobile home into a short-term rental, which he said is not the intent of this ordinance, which did pass this morning. So leaders specifically said short-term rentals cannot happen. The town of Fort Myers Beach will see an impact on this as Ian, of course, destroyed the town hall. And for months, the government used temporary structures. Same approach with the sheriff's office that's there. And that's one reason why the town council passed this new ordinance to allow temporary structures for use. Councilmember Bill Veach said this is not to let vacation rentals, though, open up shop in mobile homes.
The purpose of this ordinance is to provide relief to individual homeowners whose homes have been damaged or destroyed.
The new temporary housing will only get approved, though, if the permanent home is not livable. To get an idea of how tough it can be, though, to find housing right now at Fort Myers Beach, we checked rent.com. Only a few places are even open. The lowest price, about $1,800 a month for 600 square feet. A judge found a Naples man tied, a Naples man tied to an extremist group, the Proud Boys, guilty of assaulting Capitol Police in the January 6th attacks. Christopher Worrell of Naples chose to have a bench trial where a judge decides it instead of a jury. And the judge found Worrell guilty of 7 counts, including obstructing an official proceeding and assaulting officers with a dangerous weapon. DOJ photos show Worrell spraying a chemical agent on officers. Florida has by far the most people arrested for roles in the January 6, 2021 attacks, including the now convicted leaders of both the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. The Lee County Sheriff's Office is sending a warning to homeowners across Lee County, saying it's seeing traces of a national crime trend showing up. It's also targeting people in a number of ways. Detectives say this trend usually targets people who rent units through online postings like an Airbnb or Vrbo. And some of those owners say the renters have taken items from their properties and their homes, even defrauding homeowners out of money. Lee County Sheriff Carmine Marcina says if you rent any property in Lee County, to question every possible renter and to consider what level of access you should give them. The massive piles of sand getting moved across Southwest Florida beaches will soon be coming to Marco Island. The city says emergency berms will start getting placed at Marco Island in about 2 weeks on May 30th. In total, the city says crews will place 37,000 tons of sand along the beaches of Marco, starting in the Cape Marco beach, running all the way to Eagles Nest Resort. People also see about 20 to 30 trucks filled with sand lined up on South Collier Boulevard every day from 6 to 8 in the morning. And this will last for about 2 weeks once the project starts. FEMA says the berms must be in place by hurricane season as part of the vital natural protections for the shore. Marco Island also saying that environmental watchers will be present to ensure that turtle nesting is not impacted. Political analysts expect Governor Ron DeSantis to announce his run for the White House any day now. This is part of the reason the announcement's coming soon. Moving trucks outside of the governor's Republican headquarters in Tallahassee. Our Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders spotted this moving truck earlier this morning and learned from a source close to the governor the DeSantis political operation is staying in Tallahassee but moving to a new location. And the weather in Iowa helped out the governor this weekend. He got to the state on Friday before the storms hit Iowa on Saturday. And that kept former President Trump from visiting Des Moines, giving the governor all of the political spotlight for the weekend in that state. Madeline Rivera is in Washington with a look at the Republican race.
So great to be in Cedar Rapids.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis making his pitch to voters in Iowa. The potential Republican presidential candidate had Hawkeye State largely to himself over the weekend after former President Trump canceled his rally on Saturday.
The leader doesn't put their finger in the wind and try to see which way the wind's blowing. The leader should have the fortitude to chart a vision, to execute the vision and deliver results.
The weekend offered an early glimpse into what could be in store for 2024, and voters are watching closely.
I do think that Ron DeSantis has some good policies. I'm concerned a little bit about some of the challenges that he's had with corporations in Florida.
More than 30 Iowa state lawmakers have already endorsed the Florida governor, who's shaping up to be former President Trump's most formidable opponent in the Republican primary. Trump stepping up his attacks on Truth Social.
The problem with Ron DeSanctimonious is that he needs a personality transplant,
and those are not yet available.
Trump is still leading the GOP primary field in most polls, but a strong performance by DeSantis in Iowa could spell trouble for the former president.
If DeSantis can gain some traction in Iowa and win the Iowa caucuses, things could that could give him some momentum going into the rest of the race.
DeSantis is expected to make his announcement in the coming days. Fox News confirms he could move his political operation into a new base in downtown Tallahassee, which he would have to disclose to federal officials. In Washington, Mallory Rivera, Fox News.
For anyone driving from Fort Myers to Sanibel, be ready for tighter traffic on the causeway during the main hours of the workday. So starting back this morning from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., FDOT crews said they will be repairing the toll plaza building, so you'll see some of the lane shifts going on. This will last for about a month. In Cape Coral, several blocks are under a boil water order right now. The city says a water main broke last night close to City Hall near Nicholas Parkway and Country Club Boulevard. The order extends south to Veterans Parkway, so right along that stretch. That's about 12 blocks, also going west to Southeast 6th Avenue. No word from the city of Cape Coral when it plans to lift the order, but reminding people to boil water at least a minute before using it. Also, some people living in St. James City on Pine Island will not have water service starting tomorrow night at 7, so Tuesday at 7, and plan on not having that water service again until early Wednesday morning. This is for people who live south of Papaya Street, and the water shutoff runs all the way to the south end of Pine Island. It's expected to come back on Wednesday morning, but when it does, also be ready to boil water on Wednesday for drinking, cooking, brushing teeth. The Pine Island Water Association says it will let people who live there know once the boil order gets lifted. A new immigration law is having immediate impact in workplaces in Florida. Some business owners say restaurants, worksites, farms will all be empty or nearly empty after the governor signed it into law. After the break, an immigration attorney tells us why one of the big changes has employees and also the people who run the companies very concerned.
We set a new record high temperature in Fort Myers, 96 degrees, the hottest it's been so far in 2023. We'll talk more about the heat and more storms moving in next.
I've been hearing that probably they will not send the kids to the school and they are afraid to go to work, and it's sad.
And that is a spokesperson for Florida's agricultural workers community saying that the group is bracing for the worst ahead of the new immigration law, which will take effect in Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis signed the new law into effect last week. It's already impacting farmers, construction sites, and some other sectors. And here's why. The new law now requires employers with 25 or more people on the payroll to verify the citizenship status of each employee. And the risk of punishment is also on both sides here for companies as well as the workers.
I've been hearing that probably they will not send the kids to the school and they are afraid to go to work, and it's sad.
The nation's backlog in immigration processing is still more than 10 months long. After July the 1st, employers will be required to provide legal paperwork documenting every employee's status. The Migration Policy Institute says more than 800,000 people who are undocumented live in Florida. If you're all set for summer travel, AAA says you're going to have company, expecting a full bounce back after the pandemic, and they'll be starting later on this month. AAA calls this could be the busiest Memorial Day of travel going back to 2008. Air travel expected to go up 11% compared to last year. Also, road tripping expected to be very popular. AAA is estimating 37 million people are going to be heading out on the roads over Memorial Day weekend. That's up 6% from last year. In fact, the group says the entire summer could be record-breaking for driving and flying. President Biden says he's also optimistic about reaching a deal to raise the debt ceiling, but as Madeline Rivera reports, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy still thinks both sides are far apart.
Despite reported progress last week in the conversations over the debt limit, neither President Biden nor House Speaker Kevin McCarthy have signaled any headway.
Hey, President Biden, any update on the budget negotiations?
I appreciate the president finally willing to talk after 97 days, but there is no movement.
President Biden and top congressional lawmakers are set to meet again on Tuesday, with about 2 weeks left to avoid a disastrous debt default. While President Biden has indicated he's open to clawing back unspent COVID-19 funds, Republicans are pushing for more cuts.
One of the things that I would have hoped to see on the table would be the unspent and unallocated debt relief funds, if you will, the student loan debt relief that Biden has provided that I think is unconstitutional, that most Americans think is totally inappropriate.
The negotiations are unfolding as President Biden prepares to leave for Japan for the G7 summit on Wednesday. As of now, the White House says the president is still sticking to schedule, regardless of the status of the talks.
We'll get an opportunity to showcase the unity of the G7 on some major issues facing the entire world.
But the pressure is building, with one political expert warning the country is the closest it's ever been to defaulting on its debt for the first time.
I think it's such a great situation because the factors that would lead to an agreement are so high. The obstacles are so great.
There are still a few areas where compromise can be made to ultimately reach an agreement, preventing default on the nation's $31.4 trillion debt. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
Now to Collier County for an update on the Sandy fire burning in the Big Cypress National Preserve, approaching 20,000 acres. The National Park Service says the fire is about 45% contained. Because of that progress, the Park Service says it's now going to shift back to phase 1 of the evacuation plan. That is the lowest phase, encouraging people living in this part of Collier County to clear brush and hanging limbs around homes and buildings. The Park Service says people who live nearby, though, are still going to be impacted by the smoke. Also means low visibility for anyone who's driving, because this is just north of US 41 Tamiami Trail, where the fire is.
And turning to our weather now across Southwest Florida, we're not only monitoring that fire, but also the fire burning right here, Orange Hammock. So we are monitoring that very closely. But good news, those winds, you are no longer seeing the smoke traveling down to Northport, Murdoch, as well as El Jobin. So definitely seeing some big improvements, but the very latest from the Florida Forest Service, this fire 50% contained, currently burning 120 acres, but away from any homes and businesses. Of course, we'll continue to monitor that, but also we're keeping a close eye on your weather here across Southwest Florida. It's the official start of rainy season, but we don't have too much to track for you here on Radar. Here we are right now looking live from the Bayfront Inn in beautiful downtown Naples. Naples hit a high this afternoon, 90 degrees. degrees. Not quite in record territory, but in Fort Myers, it was the hottest day so far this year. We tied that record of 96 set back in 1990. Typically, we don't hit our first 96-degree day until mid-June. Mother Nature about a month ahead of schedule. Another perspective now at a very nice view from the Luminary Hotel in downtown Fort Myers. Mostly sunny skies here. Temperatures coming off that 96. We're still at 93. Factor in that dew point, and it is feeling more like 93 degrees. So a bit of a heat index right now. Winds are blowing out of the northwest at 18 miles per hour. Otherwise, notice on radar just a couple of lingering downpours there for parts of central Collier County down to Everglades City. Watching some of that light to moderate rainfall for Chokoloskee right along 10,000 Islands. Otherwise, as we head farther toward the north, that little storm right there over Harker has now completely fizzled out. Rain chances, they'll be in the scattered to isolated range throughout this week. So my advice, be on the safe side. Just have that umbrella on hand just in case. But for tomorrow, scattered storms are expected. Wednesday, fewer storms. And then heading into your Thursday, you'll notice the scattered downpours back in the mix. Friday and Saturday, just 30% rain chances expected. So not all of us are going to be affected on any given day, but just in case one of those showers heads your direction, you want to make sure you're ready. 20% rain chance right here at 9 o'clock. Otherwise, everything quiets down overnight. Partly cloudy skies are expected to mostly sunny as we kick off your Tuesday morning. Heading into your Tuesday afternoon with the heating of the day, those showers and storms bubbling up first right along 41 and I-75 right here at 3 o'clock. But once those winds pick up out of the west, that will help to force all of that energy farther inland. So most of the storms for 5 to 6 p.m. that will stay east of I-75 and generally away from the coastline. Those storms will continue through 8 o'clock. Then as soon as that sun sets, those storms will be losing their energy. For tonight, partly cloudy, becoming mostly clear by daybreak. 72 degrees is where we'll be starting off the day. Heading into the afternoon is going to be another hot one, looking for those highs in the lower 90s. But again, more of us expected to be cooled down by those developing showers and storms. And then isolated rain chances Wednesday, scattered Thursday, few storms forecast over the weekend. As of right now, it looks like Sunday could feature a better chance for storms across Southwest Florida.
A Chinese court has sentenced a 78-year-old U.S. citizen to life in prison on spying charges. John Xinguang Lung is a permanent resident of Hong Kong. Chinese investigators arrested him 2 years ago, but no details of charges or court process have ever been released to American officials. That's because in China, state security cases are prosecuted in private. Johnson & Johnson's vaccine is no longer available anywhere across the nation, days after the official end of the pandemic. The CDC says of all the J&J vaccines have expired as of last week, and the company's last batch produced more than 31 million doses and got sent out. The CDC reports that 12 million of the 31 million went unused. In the coming weeks, we could also see more doctors advocating for female patients to start having mammograms at an earlier age. Fox 4's Lisa Greenberg shows us why these changes could go into place in today's Your Healthy Family.
It's the second most common cancer in women in the United States, but early detection of breast cancer can save lives. And this Women's Healthcare Month, there's a new proposal that would have women getting mammograms at a younger age. In today's Your Healthy Family, I'm showing you the new recommendations.
To reduce the risk of dying from breast cancer, the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force says all women at average risk should get screened every other year for breast cancer, starting at age 40.
They recognized that there's an increased incidence of breast cancer in this age group for women in their 40s, but also that screening is very effective.
Dr. Sarah Friedewald is the chief of breast imaging at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. She says the task force's latest proposal would update their 2016 guidance, which said women should get mammograms every other year starting at age 50. But the decision for a woman to screen in her 40s was an individual one.
Definitely, it's a move in the right direction, but it's not exactly right.
A study in the journal JAMA Network Open found the rate of breast cancer deaths in women in their 40s was 27 per 100,000 people for Black women, compared with 15 deaths per 100,000 in white women. But Dr. Friedewald says screening every year instead of every 2 years would save more lives.
If you increase that interval between screening, you just allow the cancers to grow to a potentially larger phase, and it potentially could be less treatable.
These updated recommendations would not apply to women at an increased risk of breast cancer who may already be getting screened at 40 or earlier. Now, that doctor says women need to be aware of their family history and other risk factors that may increase their chances of breast cancer. For Your Healthy Family, I'm Lisa Greenberg, and we have a link to read the full recommendation online at fox4now.com/yourhealthyfamily.
And also look throughout our digital properties, fox4now.com. You can learn more about how tonight the Fort Myers Beach restaurant La Ola is opening a second spot inland at the Bell Tower Shopping Center in Fort Myers, calling it a safety net against future storms. And this comes as some of the other beach businesses destroyed by Ian, like Zanzibar Greek Restaurant, which was right in front of the Lane Kai, are also looking to move the location to downtown Fort Myers. Fox 4 asked those businesses if this was part of a trend among the beach businesses there at F&B. We have a deeper look at the conversation online, fox4now.com. And also going back to take another live look along I-75 from Northport. This is now what's called the Orange Hammock Fire. And this is just east and north of I-75, and it's between the two exits, an 8-mile stretcher between the Kings Highway exit and Toledo Blade. At last check with the Florida Forest Service, they confirmed 120 acres burned, 50% contained. Now, you go back about 3 hours ago, there was thick black smoke in the air. Anybody could see it. And while this side where the fire is largely unresidential, you go just across the interstate, the highway there, you got Price Boulevard, all of those homes with all that growth there in Northport. We're going to keep a close eye on this tonight on Fox 4. And relief may also be coming for people at Fort Myers Beach still trying to rebuild after Ian. Today, the town council approved new rules to allow temporary housing, mostly trailers, mobile homes for homeowners to use. One council member, though, said he's already heard people trying to convert some of those mobile homes into short-term rental housing. Fox 4 investigates Ryan Kruger taking a deeper dive into the proposal, and those details online to check out. Again, fox4now.com. Thank you for joining us on this Monday, this hot Monday, at least in Fort Myers, 96 degrees, tying the record. Hope you can cool off tonight. Also hope you join us for Fox 4 News at 10. Make it a great Monday night.
We don't know what the future holds.
That uncertainty, some Fort Myers Beach business owners say, is driving them to look for new options. Tonight, we have the numbers about how many businesses are expected to come back. And new to start this hour, Fox 4 Investigates has obtained a Cape Coral report, the results of a months-long major dispute between city leaders and fired city manager. What this says about allegations of racism and homophobia right now at 6.
Live from Fox 4, this is breaking news.
In the breaking news right off the top here at 6 p.m., this fire from Sarasota County was much more dramatic 2 hours ago. I've been watching it very closely. Thank you for joining us here for Fox 4 News at 6. I'm Chris Earl. And we could earlier see black smoke coming out of this spot. This is Northport. It's very extreme southern Sarasota County. This is I-75 for anyone looking southbound between the Toledo Blade exit and also Kings Highway. It's burning near the Orange Hammock Wildlife Management Area. And for anyone on 75, you've been able to see this for the last couple of hours. So bring in Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls, because yes, the fire is still burning. Now, Florida Forest Service confirms to us 120 acres, half contained. The question now is wind, and will the wind go in a certain direction to kind of help blow the fire out?
Thankfully, at this point, we are starting to see those winds improve, and it's actually burning back on itself, according to the Florida Forest Service. So, of course, we continue to watch that closely, but you can see it right here burning just to the east of I-75. But if you're in Northport, Murdoch, El Jobin, you very well could be seeing some of that smoke right now. We are certainly no longer seeing the big billowing black smoke that we were at the top of Fox 4 News at 5, but still, if you are traveling along 75 heading up to Sarasota County, maybe from Northport down to Port Charlotte, you are certainly seeing some of that smoke out there right now. But again, those winds are staying on the light side, and of course that is a big concern of ours here in the Fox 4 Weather Center. But there you go, you can see that flow picking up out of the northeast, kind of driving that smoke off toward the south and west. So that's what our radar is picking up right here. But as we head down to Collier County, as well as parts of Hendry, that's where we're also monitoring some thunderstorms. So right here along Alligator Alley into southern Hendry County, dealing with some downpours there. Tomorrow, though, more of us will be up against that potential, and coming up in the next 10 to 15 minutes, we'll take a closer look at the timing for when your neighborhood could pick up some much needed rainfall.
Thank you, Katie. An independent investigation from a law firm the city of Cape Coral hired found many of the allegations from fired Cape Coral city manager Rob Hernandez to be unsubstantiated. The city fired Hernandez in February. He accused the city council and mayor of racist and homophobic conduct. Fox 4 Investigates Ryan Kruger joins us in studio with the latest details coming out of that investigation. Ryan.
Yeah, Chris, Rob Hernandez alleged that he was fired as the city manager of Cape Coral because he claims he spoke out against what he called discriminatory views of certain city leaders. But in a 31-page report released this afternoon from that independent law firm, it found almost all of those claims to be unsubstantiated. Hernandez was fired on February 15th. And one day before, his lawyer sent a letter to the city attorney alleging, among other things, that Cape Coral Mayor John Gunter wanted to remove a lesbian employee from having any contact with the public. He also accused another council member of wanting certain rules of decorum to apply to Cape Pride, and also alleged that some council members took exception to the hiring of an African-American woman in a leadership position. Cape City leaders hired an outside law firm to look into Hernandez's allegations. The report found all of those allegations I just mentioned to be unsubstantiated. The report says Hernandez was instead terminated for, quote, legitimate, non-discriminatory reasons. I did reach out to Hernandez's lawyers. I have not heard back. If we do get a response from them, we will put it up on fox4now.com. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.
The future is just a little uncertain down there.
Tonight, the Fort Myers Beach restaurant La Ola is opening a second location at the Bell Tower Shopping Mall in the shopping center in Fort Myers, calling it a safety net against future storms. This comes as so many other destroyed beach businesses like the Zanzibar Greek restaurant are now looking to move to a downtown location. The Zanzibar was in front of the Lani Kai there at Fort Myers Beach. Fox 4's Colton Chavez live for us in Times Square at Fort Myers Beach. And Colton, what do moves like this also mean for the outlook and really for the business environment there on the island?
Chris, that's exactly what I think everybody who's down here on the beach today, that's what they're wondering. Now, if you remember in my report from back in December, the Fort Myers Beach Commission, they were saying that they expected about half of the businesses that were here before Hurricane Ian to return to the beach. Well, some good news tonight, Chris. We're learning that more than half of those businesses are now set to return. But for businesses like you said, Chris, like La Ola just behind me here, they say that they can't just depend on their beachside location moving forward.
With everything going on the beach, we're more in a temporary situation down there where we don't know what the future holds.
Of the 60 restaurants that called Fort Myers Beach home before Hurricane Ian, La Ola is just one of the 18 the Fort Myers Beach Chamber of Commerce says have returned since the storm.
We're operating out of some shipping containers on trailers and a food trailer down there, as you know. So it'll be nice to have a brick and mortar here to fall back on.
A safety net La Ola owner Tom Houghton said he was able to cast by opening a second location at the Bell Tower shopping mall in Fort Myers. 7 months after Ian, of the 18 restaurants that have returned, half of them, like La Ola, Chamber's executive director Jackie Lizak says, are operating on the beach out of food trucks or shipping containers. Houghton says that's creating vulnerabilities his second location can help alleviate.
It sure feels good to be able to have, a location that isn't so vulnerable and at risk. I got to be able to think of my staff and make sure that I can provide constant employment for them.
Gearing up for their Bell Tower soft opening, Houghton says his 2 locations overall will increase his staff by 50% compared to what it was before Ian, creating for La Ola a more resilient workforce as the island community continues to build back as Southwest Florida approaches the start of another hurricane season.
There most definitely is going to be a whole lot of construction going on at some point. We're going to have to be able to work around that or maybe take a pause. Who knows? The future is just a little uncertain down there.
As a reminder, when we're talking about La Ola, they're not going to close down their Fort Myers location. They're simply opening up a second location. Now, for that soft opening at Bell Tower, that's set to happen sometime next week. We'll give you those updated details as soon as they are released from La Ola. But for now, live in Fort Myers Beach, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
Thank you, Colton. Also new information tonight on a shooting in Cape Coral, and police officers say there were children inside of the home when several bullets went all the way through a bedroom and into an adjoining apartment. Cape police say the call came early on May the 6th on Northeast 16th Place in the 400 block. Investigators say they found more than 10 bullet holes, some going through a sliding glass door and into the bedroom of the house. Police say their investigation led them to 34-year-old Angel Perez Jr. from Fort Myers. After his arrest, they also say they found a gun